Hello everyone and welcome to this video going over the changes made in patch 2.5. One of the changes you will notice right away is that they have now removed the ability for survivors to view the killer perks, add-ons, and offerings in the tally screen during an ongoing match. Killer information will be revealed once all survivors have exited the match. So if you leave the match before everyone else, or you die before everyone else, you will now see that this red bar is covering the killer's information, and all you can see is their name and rank. Additionally, they have helped killers out with their Moris. If the killer has played a Mori offering, the offering's icon will be displayed on their screen when the conditions are valid and they are standing over a downed survivor. And then the last UI update is that items found in chests without already holding an item now require being picked up. This makes the interaction consistent with when you have an item already in hand and allows you to see what you have found before you commit to picking it up. They have added controls to change characters in the lobby screens, so you will see under your rank you have these two arrows, and when you click on them, it will cycle between the corresponding characters. This way you can change your character without having to open the character selection panel. These arrows are also featured on the in-game store, so you can easily change characters there as well. On the main menu screen, they have added new idle animations for the survivors who are sitting on the logs. So if you watch them closely, you can see them cycle through their new animations. And this final feature I cannot show, but clicking on an unpurchased character from the offline lobby screen will automatically redirect you to the character's store page. Now let's take a look at killer changes made in this patch. First, I will be going over the perk changes. For Bamboozle, they have updated the text to reflect that the perk does not work with pallets. Blood Warden has gotten a quality of life update. They have added a timer to the perk on the HUD to better indicate when and for how long Blood Warden is active. So, once all the gates have been powered and you hook a survivor, you will see that Blood Warden in the bottom right corner has a kind of timer activation on it, and when the entire perk is highlighted in that red color, it will be deactivated. For Iron Maiden, they have reduced survivor location notification from 4 seconds to 3 seconds. Be aware that they have not updated the in-game text for this perk yet. So it still says 4, but it actually is only 3 seconds. Spies from the Shadows. They have increased the chances of a visual notification to 100% for all tiers. And they have given the notification of a crow flying away with a specific crow notification, so it won't look like just any old explosion anymore. And they have increased the notification range from 16, 24, 36 meters to 32, 40, 48 meters. And finally, Surveillance has been adjusted. They have increased audible repair sounds by a distance of 8 meters for all tiers. And then any regressing generators will be highlighted by a white aura. If regression on a generator is interrupted, it will be highlighted by a yellow aura for 8, 12, or 16 seconds. And those are all the perks that were adjusted for Killer. Now onto some Killer adjustments. For the Legion, you can now manually end your Frenzy and it will no longer deplete the remainder of the power gauge. And they reduced the intensity of the blurred VFX during Frenzy. The other killer who got adjustments is the Pig. They have decreased the base crouch and uncrouch duration from 2 seconds to 1.3 seconds. Due to this crouch change, they have also adjusted the Combat Straps add-on and decreased the value from 1 second to 0.3 seconds. They have adjusted the terror radius fade time for when crouching to uncrouching to fade out in about 4 seconds instead of the 6.6 seconds it used to take. And they have increased her terror radius from 28 meters to 32 meters. Then there were minor blood point adjustments for her. The hit during dash attack was increased from 250 to 500 blood points. and the initiate dash attack was increased from 50 to 100 blood points. Now for some of the map changes. I will not show every single one of these because some of these are very minor, and also a lot of them would be really hard to show since it's very randomized and specific. But basically what they have done is they have improved the spawning of totems even more, and they have added more hiding places for them and have put them in even more spots. So if you are wondering why you cannot find a totem, try looking in places you've never looked before, because there are now more spawn points for them. On the game map, they have added a few extra signs to help players navigate to these stairs so you don't get lost. The Grim Pantry now has a crow bomb on it, so similar to the Pale Rose. If you go near the Grim Pantry, a ton of crows will fly away and squawk and tell everyone on the map that someone is near the pantry. On Bottom Preschool, they now force a hook to spawn in the back of the preschool if the basement is not there. Now, something they did a lot of for maps is they have made some adjustments to how hooks spawn. So hooks should have better spawning now than they did before, and they have even added new hook spawns around certain buildings and jungle gyms to help improve hook distribution. So if you see a hook spawn that you've never seen before, then this is the reason. Another part of the hook spawning change is that they changed the basement reference point to be the top of the stairs instead of in the middle of the basement. This way, hooks will no longer spawn directly outside the basement. And what I mean by this is if the basement was in Killer Shack and then there was a hook literally on the corner of Killer Shack, that should no longer happen. And then another thing they did to decrease the chances of a hook spawning super close to the basement is they made the minimum distance that a hook can spawn from the basement to 16 meters. And another big thing is that all the hook offerings have been modified to match their new ways of distributing hooks on the map. For killers, you had the moldy oak, the rotten oak, and the putrid oak, which would make more hooks spawn on the map. And then for survivors, they had the petrified oak, which would decrease the amount of hooks on the map. This has been completely reworked, so now they no longer prevent hooks from spawning. Instead, what will happen is that the petrified oak, which is the survivor offering, will increase the distance between hooks by 1 meter per offering. And then for the killer offerings, the uncommon moldy oak will reduce the distance hooks can spawn from each other by 1.5 meters. The rotten oak will reduce the distance by 2.5 meters, and the putrid oak will reduce the distance by 3.5 meters. So when those offerings are played, you may get a lot of hook spawns that are very close together. Status effects have been adjusted this patch as well. All status effects that are timer based no longer stack or automatically reset their timer, but instead they will take the highest remaining status timer and ignore the other. So if the new timer is the higher one, then the previous timer will be disregarded and the status effect icon will visually reset to 100%. If the new timer is the lower one, then the new timer is disregarded and the status effect icon remains at its current progress. So to help explain this a bit more, say the killer has Iron Maiden and Hex Haunted Ground. Now, Iron Maiden obviously has the lower exposed status condition. So here, I apply Haunted Ground to myself, you can see I have that status, and when I jump in and out of this locker, the timer on that exposed does not change at all. Just remains the same. But when the Haunted Ground timer gets low enough and I go in and out of the locker, the Iron Maiden exposed takes over because it now has the higher value than Haunted Ground does. And then it overrides the Haunted Ground exposed with the Iron Maiden exposed. So whichever timer is higher takes priority. There were also a few changes made to survivor perks. Now Distortion got a text update to reflect that the perk does not trigger when survivors are in the dying state or affected by traps. Leader has been adjusted. All action speeds, with the exception of repair speed, have been increased to 15, 20, and 25% instead of the 369%. The effect will now persist for 15 seconds after the perk owner is out of range. Now, this is the biggest part that they changed. Only 1 leader effect at a time, so it no longer stacks with other leaders. Prove Thyself was also adjusted. For every other survivor working on a generator within a 4-meter range, gain a 10% repair speed bonus. This same bonus is also applied to all other survivors within range. Gain 50, 75, or 100% more blood points for co-op actions. Only 1 Prove Thyself effect at a time, so this cannot be stacked either with itself. So Prove Thyself is an improved version of the old leader, and that is the perk you will want to run if you want to get gens done faster. You will no longer want to run leader for that. And finally, Technician has had a small adjustment. All tiers reduce audible repair sounds by a distance of 8 meters, up from 0, 4, or 8. They have adjusted the vault mechanic so that survivors come out of it with momentum instead of being set to 0 movement speed after a vault. So now when you vault, it will be a little bit easier to continue running than it was before. They have also changed the medium vault speed to last 0.9 seconds, down from 1 second, and they created a new medium vault animation to distinguish the medium from the slow and fast vaults. They also changed the rarity of items in chests, so now there's a slightly higher chance to get better drops in chests than there were before. And then a minor change for the killer blood point scoring events. They renamed the hooked scoring event to caught, and the hook scoring event to hooked. So the caught scoring event is for the first time you hook a survivor, and then hooked is whenever you hook any survivor. And those are all the significant changes made in patch 2.5. If you want to read about every single change from all the bug fixing and all the minor map fixing, I will post a link to the patch notes in the description below. I hope you found this video informative, and thank you very much for watching. As always, good luck out there in the fog, and see you next time.